I am Carolyn Brown. I direct the Office of Scholarly Programs and the John W. Kluge Center here at the library. And on behalf of the Librarian of Congress, James H. Billington, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you here this morning for what I know is going to be a very interesting, productive, and probably eye-opening conference on education, health, and socioeconomic developments in Iraq. Today's conference is a joint effort on the part of two units within the library, the African and Middle Eastern Division and the Office of Scholarly Programs, and with the Cultural Office of the Embassy of Iraq. And the event is supported with funds from Islamic Studies Trust Fund, which we have here at the library. Just today's event is very unusual, I think, to bring together in a single room people and organizations who are working at the grassroots level to help in the rebuilding of Iraq. And it's my understanding that many of you, in fact, have few opportunities to talk to one another, even though you are engaged in the same enterprise. I would like to thank, in addition to the folks within the library, the Embassy of Iraq, who are our partners in this, and especially the cultural attaché, Dr. Al-Khalili, who has been the guiding inspiration behind this. Even though it appears that this was pulled together rather quickly, this morning Dr. Khalili said, well, it had been in his mind for about 2 years. So you can plant a seed, and next thing you know, you have a wonderful tree that has sprouted. I would like now to bring forward Dr. Mary Jane Deeb, Chief of the African and Middle Eastern Division, who is herself a scholar of the Muslim world. Mary Jane?
Thank you, Dr. Brown. And I want to welcome you all also on behalf of my division, the African Middle East Division. I want to thank the Embassy of Iraq. The ambassador has kindly agreed to join us. And I want to thank very much Dr. Hadi Khalili, my partner in this enterprise, and with whom I've worked very closely in the past 2 months to bring together this program today. I want to thank Dr. Carolyn Brown, without whose continuous support it would not have been possible to pull together the program today, not only today's program, but many of the other programs that we do on the Muslim world. I also want to recognize my colleagues in the African Middle East Division who have been such great support. Before doing that, I want to invite the ambassador of Iraq to come and give us welcoming remarks and share with us some of his ideas on cooperation. Thank you.
Good morning, all. I would like first to welcome every one of you here and thank the Library of Congress for cooperating with us to set up this event. I'd like to thank in particular Dr. James Billington, the Librarian of Congress, Ms. Brown, Dr. Brown, Director of Kluge Center, and Ms. Mary Jane Deeb, whose help was indispensable in putting this together. I'd like, of course, to recognize and thank Dr. Hadi Al-Khalili for all his effort. He's a great Iraqi patriot, and we are proud of him, full of vision and enthusiasm.
Now, Dr. Hadi Al-Khalili, Culture Attaché at the Library at the Embassy of Iraq.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. It's with great appreciation and acknowledgement I acknowledge the generosity and support of the Library of Congress to make this conference a dream come true. Special thanks to Ms. Carolyn Brown, Dr. Brown, Director of Klug Center, and to Dr. Mary Jane Deeb, Chief of African Middle Eastern Division at the Library for Leadership and Support and Time. Thanks go also to the wonderful staff of the African and Middle Eastern Division at the Library for all they have done. I acknowledge all distinguished speakers. The level of support we have received has overwhelmed us, and it shows the great willingness among all to help Iraq and humanity. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming today and sharing with us this event. We hope that we shall learn about what is currently being done, what the current needs are, and what perhaps to do together to address these needs. And thank you.
And now we'll move directly to the first panel. The moderator will be Dr. Chris Murphy, head of the Near East section. So Dr. Colin Davis, Josephine Griffin, and Mohammed Al-Omari.
Here, our first presenter is Colin Davies, who has directed World of Learning capacity building services for over 15 years. This includes the oversight of academic exchange programs such as the Middle East Peace Scholarships Program, the Egypt MBA Exchange Program, and the Iraqi Young Leaders Exchange Program for undergraduates.
So Al-Hir, good morning. Very honored and happy to be in this august premises. This year's program is much larger. In July, we will be bringing to the US students, 140 Iraqi undergraduate students from 20 different universities.
Our second presenter is Josephine Griffin, who is known as Jody Griffin. She has been in international education overseas for more than 30 years.
Thank you very much. Dr. Khalili and I have known each other a couple of years. We welcome all of you here today. I will keep the comments fairly brief. Our primary program area in the region is teaching English as a second language. There were probably between 80 and 100,000 students across the region taking English classes.
Our third presenter is Mr. Mohammed Al-Omari, who is Administrative Director of Life for Relief and Development. Mr. Al-Omari is a native of Baghdad.
First, I'd like to thank the Library of Congress, the Klug Center, and the African and Middle Eastern Division for holding this, in addition to the Iraqi Embassy, His Excellency the Ambassador, and Dr. Khalili. Life for Relief and Development, we took the name from this passage. If a person saves a life, it would be equivalent to saving all of humanity, and it's a passage in the Quran. And really, our motto is to save a life. Anywhere where we can be a positive force in saving lives, whether through emergency relief or long-term development.
It's my pleasure to moderate this second session on health, and it's my pleasure to have Maggie and Mary and David. We're starting with Maggie. Maria Habib Mawad is the Reconstruction Program Advisor at the State Department of Iraq Office. Maggie received her BA in Political Science from Rutger University and speaks Arabic fluently.
Good morning. Thank you, Dr. Khalili, for the very warm opening. It is a pleasure to be here today to discuss the State Department's contributions to reconstruction and healthcare development in Iraq. In October 2003, the World Bank and the United Nations estimated Iraq's reconstruction needs at $55 billion over 4 years.
He works with the Medical Mobile, and this company, they make mobile surgical theater, which is top quality surgical theater and specifications. Costs $2.5 million, and it can be used wherever you want it to be in the remote areas. It can be annexed to a hospital. We're grateful to Mobile Medical and his active contribution, really, to get one of those mobile surgical theaters bought by the Italian government and sent to Iraq.
Thank you, Dr. Khalili. I'm very, very pleased and honored to be here. I live just a few blocks away and walk by this wonderful building, and always send folks coming in from out of town to see its beauty. It's really, I think, one of the prettiest and most remarkable buildings in the city. I want to thank His Excellency, Dr. Khalili, and Ms. Deeb, Ms. Brown, and my fellow panelists for a chance really to speak for not only mobile medical, to Dhaka province for the purpose really of training not just physicians and surgeons, but also nurses, which are in very, very short supply.
Jane Corey, and Jane is Acting Director, Europe and Eurasia, Acting Director, Middle East and North Africa at the Department of Health.
Thank you, Dr. Hadi. I think I'm so happy to see this slide working because I have an intern working with me who did it. It's an honor to be with you today. I think it's important to look at Iraq in the context of the whole Middle East. As you can see from this slide, where it is nestled, so to speak. If you look at the Islamic Empire, approximately 50 to 80 years after the death of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, you see that Baghdad was centrally located. And that's really important. If you drew a straight line, you'd have Cordoba, Spain, to the Punjab in India. And the epicenter, the center of everything was Baghdad. Baghdad got the traffic for trade, the traffic for science, the best minds, the best ideas of the time.
Well, after these two very exciting panels, we move to the third, which is on socioeconomic development, socioeconomic assistance to Iraq. So we'll begin with Jeannie Pryor. She's the Deputy Director of the Office of Iraq Reconstruction for USAID in the Middle East.
Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. When I talk to my family and friends who are spread around the country, all they think about with Iraq is gloom and doom. They unfortunately don't get to sit where I sit and are not aware that actually there's a lot of exciting developments going on in Iraq and have been over the years that never get mentioned or covered. Iraq also has enormous resources. And when people think of resources, they tend to think of oil. But that's not Iraq's most valuable resource. It's its people. I have worked in the poorest of the poor, and I have never seen the asset Iraq brings in terms of its people. Educated, hardworking, courageous, entrepreneurial.
I'd like to talk to you about the International Iraqi Women Twinning Project that we've established at the National Academy of Sciences. You've heard a bit of the background of the academies, but to put this project in context, I'll tell you just a little bit more about it. The academies are private honorary societies, the Academy of Engineering, the Academy of Science, and the Institute of Medicine. Then most of you probably heard of the National Research Council, which is the operating arm of the academies. And that's several women members of our academy came to us and asked what they could do to support their colleagues, fellow scientists in Iraq.
Well, Dr. Deeb, first of all, before I start, I just want to thank the Library of Congress and you for putting this together. I think this is amazing that you guys have done this. And I also do want to give a big thank you to Dr. Hadi, who I think most of you probably received a personal email or a personal phone call, and you know what kind of hours he puts in and what kind of time he put in to put this together and to get us all in this room together. And so I really do think he deserves a round of applause. And then also, if we could also thank Hanan, his wife, who must be a saint, because he emails me at 3 in the morning, and I get emails from Hadi at 3 in the morning. I get phone calls early, so she must be the most understanding wife of all time. IRD, for those of you who don't know us, is International Relief and Development. And we are a nonprofit. We've just celebrated our 10th anniversary just a few weeks ago. And we have been told that quite recently that we are the largest, fastest growing nonprofit in the world. Humanitarian aid as far as like bringing in donations that are wheelchairs, cooking stoves, cooking utensils, blankets, mattresses, that kind of stuff for the IDPs in the area, and that's internally displaced persons.
Now for the hero of this program, Hadi Al-Khalili.
Thank very much, Dr. Mary Jane Deeb, for her wonderful leadership and support and time. She's so busy, so occupied, but she was so kind to give us her time over the past few weeks to work and to communicate with all the speakers and to get their bios and their approval, and that's really hard work. And thanks, of course, to Chris for his support and his work, and all the people at the Department of African and Middle Eastern section. And thanks to Dr. Brown, who kindly offered to help. And this cost about, with the sound system, I think cost about maybe $10,000 a day, and we got it for free. So we were very fortunate. And I must really thank, as Rowan said, my wife and my family for for their endurance, for accepting me being away from them and sitting on the computer all the time to get this organized. And thank you very much all for this.
I think you're very humble and you've done such a fantastic job. So thank you so much, Dr. Khalili.